If you've been following Soilstories for a while, you already know I'm obsessed with tomatoes. They're the divas of the garden, rewarding, dramatic, delicious, and, a little bit demanding. But here's the thing most gardeners don't admit: tomatoes don't just grow. They respond to your habits, your care, your timing, and even your mistakes. And trust me, after years of growing them, I've made every mistake possible so you don't have to. Today, I want to walk you through the 5 mistakes you must never make when growing tomatoes. Whether you're nurturing your very first seedling or you've been gardening longer than I've been alive, these insights will save you from frustration and help you harvest the best tomatoes of your life. Alright, let's dig in. If there's one mistake that quietly sabotages tomato growers everywhere, it's this one. Tomatoes are heavy feeders with deep, adventurous roots. When we tuck them into hard, compacted, nutrient-poor soil, they simply can't spread out, literally or figuratively. Their roots get trapped, moisture doesn't distribute evenly, and nutrients become inaccessible. What you end up with is a stunted plant that spends more time struggling than fruiting. This is where I always tell my Soilstories family, don't plant tomatoes into soil, plant them into a living ecosystem. Before you even think of putting a seedling in the ground, work on your soil structure. Add compost that's fully decomposed, incorporate leaf mold if you have it, or mix in well-aged manure. The goal is to create a soft, fluffy, well-draining environment that allows roots to stretch like they're lying in a hammock. Another technique I swear by is planting tomatoes deep. Tomatoes are one of the few vegetables that welcome being buried. Stems develop new roots, making the plant sturdier and more drought resilient. But this only works if the soil is healthy. So if your tomatoes have ever looked pale, spindly, or just confused, your soil is likely the culprit. Improve the soil and your tomatoes will thank you in fruit. Watering seems simple, yet it's the second biggest tomato killer I see in gardens everywhere. Tomatoes thrive on consistency. What they absolutely hate is the unpredictable gardener, deep watering one day, forgetting for a week, flooding them after that. This inconsistency creates stress, and stressed tomatoes split, rot, drop flowers, or refuse to grow properly. The secret is deep, slow watering. Instead of splashing a bit on the surface, soak the soil so the water reaches the root zone. This encourages the plant to grow stronger, deeper roots that resist drought and support heavy fruit production. I always water early in the morning when evaporation is low and the plant has all day to dry its leaves naturally. Speaking of leaves, try your best not to water them. Wet foliage is an open invitation for fungal diseases, especially blight. Use drip irrigation, a watering can directed at the soil, or even a buried bottle system. If you only change one habit this season, make it watering at the base, deeply and consistently. And remember, tomatoes will tell you when they're thirsty. Slight wilting during the hottest part of the day is normal, but if your plant is still drooping in the evening, that's your cue. Keep the soil evenly moist, not soggy, not bone dry, and you'll see healthier plants and tastier fruit. Every season, I see gardeners cramming tomatoes shoulder to shoulder like passengers in a matatu at rush hour. I get it, space is precious, and seedlings look tiny, but tomatoes don't stay tiny for long. They become enormous leafy beasts that need airflow as much as they need sunlight. Poor spacing is the gateway to disease. When leaves don't dry quickly after dew or rain, fungal spores thrive. When plants shade each other, fruit production drops. When roots compete, they all suffer. I've learned the hard way. Crowded tomatoes equal sick tomatoes. If you're growing determinate varieties, keep them at least 18 to 24 inches apart. Indeterminate varieties, the tall, vining types, need a luxurious 24 to 36 inches. It might feel like you're giving away too much real estate, but this spacing is what allows each plant to breathe, expand, and produce those plump, picture-worthy clusters. Support also matters. Staking, caging, or string training isn't optional, it's essential. Lifting your tomatoes off the ground improves airflow and reduces disease dramatically. Every time I've gotten lazy and skipped proper support, I've regretted it with a garden full of tangled stems and hidden pests. Pruning tomatoes is one of those controversial topics where everyone has an opinion. But here's what I've learned from years of trial, error, and countless experiments filmed for Soilstories: pruning isn't optional for indeterminate tomatoes. Without it, they turn into a jungle of stems, suckers, and leaves that drain energy and reduce fruit quality. Suckers, the small shoots that grow between the main stem and side branches, aren't bad. Left alone, they become entire new stems that also produce fruit. But too many stems equal too much foliage, too much shade, and too few nutrients going into actual tomatoes. I usually prune to maintain one or two main leaders, especially early in the season when the plant is establishing itself. But here's the catch: pruning must be done correctly. Never remove too many leaves at once. Tomatoes rely on their foliage to photosynthesize, regulate temperature, and protect fruit from sun scald. I prune gradually, always leaving enough canopy to shield the tomatoes while improving airflow. For determinate varieties, just leave them alone. They're naturally compact, and honestly, pruning them reduces yield. That's why, understanding your variety is key. If you prune a determinate plant like an indeterminate, you'll be left wondering why it barely produced anything. Tomatoes don't just grow, they actually consume. They're nutrient-hungry plants that need a steady supply of minerals to support all that leafy growth, flowering, and fruiting. One of the biggest mistakes gardeners make is feeding tomatoes heavily at the beginning of the season, but then forgetting about them later. Tomatoes need different nutrients at different stages. In the seedling and early growth phase, they crave nitrogen to build strong stems and leaves. But once flowers appear, the plant shifts to a need for phosphorus and potassium. Too much nitrogen at this stage leads to big, beautiful plants with almost no fruit, and I know how painful it is to see a huge tomato plant giving you only 2 sad fruits. I always recommend using a balanced organic fertilizer at planting, followed by a bloom or fruit booster once flowering begins. Compost tea, worm castings, banana peel tea, fish fertilizer, and crushed eggshells can all play a role, but honestly, consistency is the real magic. Light, regular feedings keep your tomato energized without overwhelming it. Mulching also helps. Whether you use straw, dried grass, shredded leaves, or wood chips, mulch keeps the soil moist, prevents nutrient runoff, and slowly breaks down into food for your plants. Tomatoes love stability, and mulching provides exactly that. Growing tomatoes isn't complicated once you understand what they need, and what they absolutely can't tolerate. Healthy, productive tomatoes come down to 5 simple principles: good soil, consistent watering, proper spacing, smart pruning, and steady feeding. Get these right, and your tomato plants will reward you with baskets of juicy fruit that taste like sunshine and effort. If you enjoyed this guide and you want more personal, real-life gardening lessons from the Soilstories garden, make sure you subscribe, share this article with another gardener, and keep following along. Together, we're growing smarter, greener, and more delicious gardens, one story at a time.